Hello, everybody. It's Gary Stuckey with Real Music. On today's episode, I've got the talented singer, songwriter, and guitarist for Cross Canadian Ragweed. That was his old band. And now he's got a new band called The Departed. It's Cody, Canada. And he's not from Canada, he's from Texas and Oklahoma. But he's here to talk about their new album they've got. They remade one of their old albums, and we're going to talk about that. It's great, and you want to check it out. They're on tour right now. Going to be talking about his career and so much more. Here he is. Here's Cody, Canada. Man, been jamming to that. I'm sure you've got a lot of fans out there. But hey, tell me this now. The name of the band, Cross Canadian Ragweed. I'm sure you've told that story a million times. Where did the name come from? That's an interesting name. So where did that name come from?
It was it was 3 out of 4 people's names in the band. There was a Cross, there was a Ragsdale, and then there's me. And we were just kind of kicking around a few ideas, and that was really the one that stuck out. We knew it was going to be long, but it stuck out. So we stayed with it and realized that, it was such an obscure name that it would probably be remembered by people.
It sounds illegal. I mean, the name, hey, it sounds like you're smuggling something across the border. No, but
I know, right?
But CCR, the initials are CCR. When somebody, it's according to what generation, somebody says, I want to hear some CCR music. Right. They've got voices.
I did a gig. We did several gigs. We did 2 gigs with Fogarty. We did one at the Santa Barbara Bowl, and we were backstage and kind of nervous. We had gotten a letter from Creedence Clearwater Revisited that said, you need to stop the CCR thing. And my response was, when Fogarty's pissed, I'll be worried about it.
Right.
And we were with Fogarty at the Santa Barbara Bowl, and he come walking in to the dressing room, and he goes, I always wanted to know what it would be like to get back with the real CCR. And I was like, man, awesome. I don't know if you realize it or not, but that's the coolest thing anybody's ever said to us. But those are some good years. My favorite saying is, it was a good time until it wasn't.
Right.
And then we just moved on,
Right. I understand that. But you were born in Texas, right? And moved to Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, born in Pampa, Texas.
And I find it interesting. Maybe I just like to look at everything and evaluate. But you moved to, was it Yukon, Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, right outside Oklahoma City.
So your name is Canada, and you moved to Yukon, Canadian Ragweed. I'm just thinking, do people think you're from Canada because of all the Canadian references?
I mean, still to this day, I mean, it's been every day of my life, every day of my career. We did a show up in Red Deer, Colorado, or Red Deer, Canada, and I did an interview with a lady, and she must have asked me 20 times, so you're from the Yukon? I was like, no. And then I about halfway through that interview, I realized how, because she kept going back to being raised in the Yukon Territory. And I was like, no, I'm from, my last name's Canada. I'm from Canadian County, Oklahoma, Yukon, Oklahoma, right on the Canadian River. And then I thought, you know what? I get it. I understand why this is so confusing. But I really have, I've got questions.
I think I'm losing you.
Let me see where I'm at. I should be. Let me sign on to the Wi-Fi and see if that helps any.
Okay. Just
one sec.
Okay.
Is that any better?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It wasn't, it was kind of sound like it was going out for a second, but it's good now. It's all good.
Okay, we're on the other side of the mountain, and I'm on Wi-Fi, so that might help.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Um, yeah, you kind of remind me, like, just sitting here looking at you, and you kind of sound like him too, Michael Sweet, for some reason, of Striper. You ever
Oh
talk to
yeah.
Mike? Kind of reminds me. I don't know. I've talked to him a couple of
No,
times.
never had the pleasure actually.
Hmm. Great guy. Yeah, great guitar player. You've played pretty good guitar there. How did you start playing? I mean, did you pick up a guitar and go, I want to tackle this? Because I know as a kid, it's a big deal when you see somebody playing guitar, your heroes, and you think, I want to play this thing. And it's not as easy as it looks. So what did you do? How did you decide to play guitar?
I saw, and it really wasn't a lead guitar thing, but I saw George Strait. I know the music that I play is way different, but I saw George Strait when I was 5 years old in Oklahoma City at a steakhouse. He was like his first single, his first record. I just immediately fell in love with music and him, and wanted to play. And I went home, and my mom had a guitar that I didn't even know she had it, and I said I'd like to play some music. And my dad said, "Well, your mom's got a guitar." And my mom said, I think it was one of her ways of motivating me, but she said, "Well, I was going to get rid of it unless you're going to play it."
Wow.
So I started playing it, and it was probably, I mean, I messed around and learned some chords and stuff, but it wasn't until I was 17 and I could play chords and sing songs, from 10 years old to now. But I didn't know any lead guitar until the band started. We didn't have a lead guitar player, and in the words of James McMurtry, if you want it done right, you better do it yourself. So I started playing and learning as much as I could, as fast as I could, and I think I'm still learning to this day. Now my kids are musicians, teenagers, so I learned a lot from them. So hopefully I'm still growing when
Sure.
it comes to all that. But I don't know. I got pretty dedicated with it, and I'm not. This is not a sympathy statement, but I didn't have a whole lot of people I ran around with. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school, so I mean, I just wanted to play music, and I could have sought out friends, but sitting in my room playing music was all I needed. And then, I discovered marijuana, and that made the music so much better, and the creativity was moving a little quicker than it was before I discovered that. And so, man, it really was just I wanted to perfect it before I got out in front of people and started playing the lead guitar, not just playing and singing. I wanted to be able to play lead enough to impress people, I guess. And it all happened around the same time as Stevie Ray Vaughan, So I had a lot of influence by him and Hendrix. I don't play exactly like those guys, but that was the stuff that I was listening to. Dwight Yoakam's guitar player, Pete Anderson, he was a big influence. And of course, Eddie Van Halen, you couldn't go anywhere without being influenced by him.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, but you can tell you've had a lot of influences in your playing and singing. Now, vocally, who would you say influenced you vocally?
It's a mixture. I always tell everybody that Merle Haggard's the number one influence from he played lead, his songwriting to singing, his stage presence, I mean, I love all that old country stuff. Haggard and Willie were always heavy on my radar and rotation. They still are today. But my parents split up right when the Seattle grunge movement was happening. And that was perfect timing for an angsty, sad teenager, So I was ready to scream and holler and play guitar at the same time.
Right. Yeah, that you can definitely hear that influence in your playing and your songwriting. Did that affect your songwriting too? When you started to write, and how did you start to write songs? Did you say, I can do this too? I can write songs.
That movement of rock and roll. I mean, that I was moved by everything that my dad listened to with the country music side, early country music. But I think that era of music was the most influential thing that ever happened to me. Um, it was there, and I needed to get some frustration out as a young guy, so I I used it. I was following what Eddie and Kurt and Cornell and Staley were doing. I wanted to be those guys, but I also wanted to stay pretty rooted um, in the Americana area where I was. So I started writing. I didn't really start heavily writing until I met my friend Mike McClure. He he's in the Great Divide, and he Stillwater guy. In Stillwater, Oklahoma is where I went after high school, because that's where a bunch of the musicians were, and it was just a big hippie compound of musicians up in Stillwater. And I felt like I found my people. I was looking for friends and cohorts, and I found them. And I'm still embarrassed by saying this. I always thought you could write songs or you could sing them. When I was younger, I didn't know you could do both, and I was just so naive. And McClure was writing songs, and I took a couple of songs to him and showed him what I'd written, and he critiqued them for me and helped me become a better songwriter. And he's another one that I still learn from to this day. And it was all about the truth, and all about your life, and pretty much autobiographical stuff. I could never really make something up. I've written a couple of tunes where I just made it up, but it always felt weird to me. So I stuck with writing about what I know.
Right. Well, what is your most autobiographical song that you've written that you would say?
There's a song on the Ragweed record, Mission, California, that's called "The Years," and that pretty much sums it all up. It was the song. I always feel like I'm hitchhiking in the song. That's what it feels like. I moved to Texas with my sister when I was about 13, and it was too small of a town for me, and they wanted football and rodeo, and I didn't want any of that. And they wanted me to cut my hair before I went to school, and so I went back up to Oklahoma, realized that there was only a couple of people that even knew that I had left. So that's really what that song's about, and about my folks splitting and everything. And it's still a song that I still play to this day.
Since your music is, kind of a in between, middle of the road kind of a sound, have there been people or record companies or executives or just people giving their advice? You got to love advice. Do they say you need to stick to this side or that side if you really want to, reach people? What do you say to that?
Not as much anymore, just because we've done it so much on our own. But in the beginning, with Universal Records, Universal South, they said, we want you as is, but we knew that there were going to be some changes that they wanted, but we didn't give it to them. We said, this is how we sound. And there was one occasion where we let Tony Brown mix a song, and it backfired on him and us. So we never really did it again. We'd really just kind of stuck to our guns, there was, when Universal South got rid of Tony Brown and Tim DuBois, the guys that our friends that hired us, when they went away, they brought in another group of people, and they really wanted us to change things, and we wouldn't. And after that, they said that we were hard to work with because we wouldn't change things, but they only said they were hard to work with because they didn't get what they wanted. We've always been pretty easy to work with. I think we wouldn't do the stuff that we considered cheesy or sellout.
Yeah, that says a lot. I know fans appreciate that, but that says a lot about who you are as a person in a band when you have something on your mind and you stick to it and you say, I don't care what you say, this is how we're going to do it. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't, I mean, it never was about the money. It was about the leaving the music behind, the other two guys in Ragweed, Jeremy and I on bass guitar, we're still together. That's him right there. Hey, Jeremy, say hi. That's
Howdy.
Jeremy. We've the other two dudes, they wanted the easier route, the more money, the less shows, and to go out with country acts and stuff like that. But we didn't want to do that. We built a fan base on the promise that we never would sell out, and we also built a fan base on, we don't like the sellout thing. We don't like modern country music. There's exceptions, but we didn't want to do that, and those guys wanted to go out with Tim McGraw and no offense to Miranda, but they want to go. We love Miranda. She's a friend. But they want to go out with her, but we can still be friends and not have the same crowd, and it just wasn't our crowd. And that was one of the reasons the band split, because we just didn't agree on what direction, I've always said I wanted us to be folk heroes, not rock stars,
Yeah. Makes sense though. You were talking about your friends. Now I know you're friends with Dierks Bentley. So how did he influence you, and how did you guys get up together? I know there's some stories there, especially the Ragweeds in the song of his, but how did you guys get up together?
So we were playing in Nashville. We played Nashville quite a bit back in the day. But we were playing there one night, and we had, my wife's our manager, but we had a Nashville manager too back then. And he introduced me to Dierks. He was leaning up against the wall backstage all by himself, and he was introduced as the next big thing, and I could see it. I hadn't heard it yet, but good looking dude and polite, kind. And then we went on tour together, and he told me that he used to run and exercise out in Arizona to our Highway 377 record, which was before a record label. So I knew there's a lot of people in Nashville that feed you full of shit. Yeah. And I knew that when he said that record, that's when I knew that he was telling me the truth. So we agreed to a tour together. So he went out opening up for us, and that lasted a very split second. And then it turned around and we were opening up for him. And we did 3 tours together. We never wrote together. I don't know. I'm pretty picky about who I write with. I mean, it probably would have definitely benefited my bank account if I'd have written with Dierks Bentley. But once again, it wasn't always about the money. It was about the art. And man, we just got to be really tight buddies. We did 3 tours together. We went across the country 3 times together. And, he still calls us up, and we do several shows together. I mean, I say several, we do a few shows a year. And, I mean, it's really like it was back then. I mean, Dierks Bentley now is the same Dierks Bentley 20 years ago. He's just a bigger star, I guess you would say. Dude, and we ran around with some of those Nashville guys. Dierks was the number one. We were label mates with Joe Nichols, and we did a lot of stuff with Gary Allen. Gary Allen was really good to us, and so we had our certain people that we ran with, but we didn't do it a whole lot,
Yeah. Yeah, I like Dierks Bentley. The first time I heard Dierks Bentley, he was singing about Becky was a beauty from South Alabama, and I live in South Alabama. So that kind of caught my ear. But y'all have a song about Alabama that I really like.
Yeah, we do. That, I was telling you earlier that a lot of the songs have some truth behind them, but that one did not. I was going to see James Brown at the Ryman Auditorium, and with a buddy of mine, we just drove out there in his car, and we didn't quite make the show because we found a bar, And we just kept driving, and we ended up going to Dothan, Alabama, and just hanging out with a bunch of spring break people. We made our way over to Panama City, Florida. And by the time we left, we didn't have anything to brag about. You know, we didn't get to go see James Brown. We didn't hook up with anybody. So we decided we'd come on with a song, and that was where Alabama came from.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm living here in Bruton, Alabama, the home of William Lee Golden. You ever work with that guy?
You know, we've never done any shows with them,
Oh, really?
which is really surprising to me. Yeah, I don't think we've ever. Jeremy, did we ever do anything with the Oak Ridge Boys ever? Yeah, I don't think we ever did. We might not be in that age bracket yet. We might have to wait 10 years.
We'll see what happens in the future. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, our drummer's already there.
Oh, all right. Hey, man, get excited. And y'all are on the road. Y'all are in between gigs, right? That's what's going on now, I guess, right? So,
yep, we're in between Salt Lake City, Utah, and Grand Junction, Colorado.
All right. Well, tell me, in the transition, you said the guys in the band, they didn't want to cooperate. So you formed a new band called The Departed, right? So how'd you go from that band? Were there fans that were like, I still want the old band? How did you work that out? I mean, with people, I mean, how'd you make them understand about this new band that you've got?
In the beginning, it didn't go very well. You know, I was so pissed off and so heartbroken that we couldn't save it, that I didn't want to do those tunes. So we jumped right in to bed with another band. You know, me and Jeremy did, and we started a whole new thing. You know, I don't even know if we did one Ragweed song there for a bit. And of course, immediately people wanted the old band, and then, you know, kind of fast forward, there wasn't much really to talk about between the first song, the first record was called Indian Land, and that was This Is Indian Land. That was a tribute to all of our Oklahoma friends and songwriters. And the next one was called Adventus, and it was really what it was. It was split down the middle. I think I did 6 songs, and the other guitar player guy did 5 songs, and Jeremy did 1 song. And it was pretty bipolar. I mean, the schizophrenic, I guess. You know, there were songs about car sex, and there were songs about Jesus, you know, and it was just kind of all over the board. And right. When that record came out, that's when people started kind of shifting, and they were very vocal about wanting Ragweed stuff. And I stayed away from it for probably another year. Maybe throw a couple of songs out there like Alabama. But people were still wanting it. And just, you know, and the thing is we said that Ragweed was a hiatus because I didn't want people to know that we were arguing, and I didn't want people to know that this was it, you know, so we said hiatus. So people kept on wanting the old band. And then I get pretty pissy about it, you know, and I would say, you know, it's never going to happen. And it's still not going to happen, but at least I'm nicer about it. Then it started kind of getting back into the same vein as Ragweed. I got away from wanting to try something different and realizing that I was better at just being being myself, I guess. And so we started doing a lot of the older songs again. And then eventually it turned into a 3-piece band, and the way it should stay and the way it probably will stay forever. We started doing all the old Ragweed songs, and then we started doing songs that were really in that vein, you know. Got back to writing with my producer. So it turned into what people were missing, you know, and then I re-recorded Soul Gravy, and man, nobody really says anything anymore. I think they got what they wanted. And I also got what I wanted too, you know, which was I'm not going to do the Ragweed thing, no matter what money's involved. You know, I always tell people that say, when you get back together with the band? It's like, well, I mean, you never rehire somebody or remarry somebody. You know, there's a reason that you're not together. So right now it's just it's the way that I wish it would have been 12 years ago, right out of Ragweed. I should have rolled from Ragweed into The Departed, just playing Ragweed songs and writing new stuff. But there was a guy in the band that wanted to try something different, and I was willing to do so. And it didn't work. Yeah, there were a few tunes that we still hang on to, but there's good memories in that music, but we had to get back to what people wanted, and that was just being us.
Sure. Yeah, you said it, like the marriage thing. I've heard a lot of analogies like that with different artists say, you don't go back, but it's like a divorce, and it's like, and I'm sure you probably think about the times, but it's kind of like opening up a book of photographs, looking back and going, yep, those were good old days. And then kind of leaving that behind, making new memories. Right. So
yeah. You got to make new stuff. My wife always busts me on, I'll get mad about something that happened 10 years ago. And she's like, move on, man, and she's right. I should move on because me and Jeremy are happy with the 3-piece, and we're happy making new music. The new music doesn't come as much as it used to because I got really burned. I had to turn around a record every 16 months for Universal, and that was a lot of pressure. I don't write like that. I can't write like that. But now, the industry's changed so much, and you can put out a record with 12 songs and people's attention span will let them listen to 2, and then there's 10 songs that are lost. So we're doing what most people are doing right now and doing single to single.
Right. As far as Jeremy, how did you two become so tight knit? When the others maybe weren't, how did y'all two become so on the same level with musically and everything?
Probably just as long as we've known each other. I met Jeremy in 6th grade, and there wasn't a whole lot of musicians that I knew in town, and he was a musician. He was in a band playing metal and rock. And then probably 13, I guess, is when we really got to hanging out, and he showed me some guitar stuff. And I don't know, we just always had the kind of not necessarily the same interest in, like, Iron Maiden's one of his favorite bands.
Right.
I like Iron Maiden, but it's not one of my favorite bands. But we just enjoy each other's company and enjoy each other's music, and we have the same. I feel like we have the same outlook on life. It's just we enjoy the music that we're playing and enjoy people, and I don't know. I think it's just why it lasted so long. Jeremy and I've hardly ever been in an argument. We've been through a lot of shit together in 30 years, so it was just easy. Oh, he's back there crying. What a big pussy.
Oh wow.
Hang on, give him a minute.
He's feeling. Hey,
I'm actually just saying all this nice shit because he's sitting there.
Of course. Wait till you stop and he gets out and we can talk about it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang up with you. It's like, hey man, I fucking hate this song.
Yeah, right. That's funny. Back in the day, you recorded it with Leanne Womack, which is really cool. Are there any plans to record in the future with anybody like that, or do you ever stay in touch with her?
Yeah, I stay in touch with her. She came back and redid a song on Soul Gravy with me. She's always told me that whenever I need her to call her. Nowadays I have my wife has a music school in New Braunfels, Texas, where we live, and there's lots of young talent that I want them to come in and experience the studio. So there's most of the people that are singers at the School of Rock are girls, just because, it's School of Rock, so all those songs are high.
Yeah.
So I give them the opportunity first, but there are certain songs I know that'll happen, and she'll be back. I mean, she said 10 years ago, I hope that we record music forever together, and we will. It's just got to find the right tune. But I keep in touch with her. I talk to her probably once a month. Just, hey, how you doing? In social media, I feel like the reason social media was invented, I keep up with her on there too, and see how her and her kids are doing.
Sure.
But that was also one of those things. I don't give the Nashville years enough credit. I I just once again the living in the past thing. The end of the record deal was shitty, but we made a lot of cool contacts. I mean, if I was a little kid watching Lee Ann Womack's, the Little Rock song, I would have called you a liar if you'd have said we'd have been friends, much less record a song together.
Yeah. Well, the music industry has changed, and what is the difference though these days in having a record label as opposed to doing it yourself? A lot of people can save a lot of money doing it themselves and doing their own thing. What do you think about that?
I mean, we're saving a lot of money by not having one, and we also get to dictate everything. I mean, how much we play and what songs we play and what acts we get to play with and stuff like that. There's people that we know from our hometown that are doing very, very well with 5 buses and 3 semis. And it's like, man, that's so much money going out the door. Once again, like I said before, not really about the money, but you also have to realize that it is sometimes, most of the time, I guess. But I don't think that you need anything. I mean, look at Zach Bryan, I mean,
Yeah.
his was all, was it TikTok that did it, and I mean, that's from what I've heard, but I just don't think. I saw Eddie Vedder 10 years ago or better in Austin, and he had said to the crowd, it's like, you don't need a record deal. All you need is talent and friends and YouTube. And I think he's right. I mean, you get the right amount of people behind you. The only thing, a record labels do help you out and they do push you and everything, but eventually you have to pay that money back.
Sure.
And I don't know. And then you have to do what they want you to do. I mean, here's 5 buses, sing this song that sucks, but it's going to be a hit. I'm singing this song that you don't like, but it's probably going to be a big hit. We have friends that we've already spoken about that have had to do albums that they didn't want to do just because contractually they're obligated to do so.
Right.
So I don't think so. I think that get a kick-ass band behind you and write some good songs and get out there and play. I mean, I feel like in the last 20 years, it took away from the, working hard to get there. My kids are in a band, and there's a lot of things that we could give them, and there's a lot of things we do give them, but there's a lot of things we could give them. But, becoming a good band is getting out there and blowing tires on a shitty old van, and playing sticky floored rock and roll rooms.
Sure.
I mean, that makes a band. I mean, I can't tell you how many puke-soaked, smoky shitholes that we played back in the day, that some that we revisit to this day. But God, those are fun memories,
Sure.
I think the kids need to go through that. But there's also gigs I like to keep them away from as well, that they don't need to go to. But I don't know. To answer your question, no, I don't think you need a record deal. If somebody came to us right now and said, we'll give you this amount of money and new tour buses, but you have to do this, and like, no, thanks, we're good.
Right. And you probably make a lot of the money off of touring and playing places, but I know like Spotify, you make like a penny a year or something on there. So I mean, right.
When we first started, we would take our first 2 records, we would take sleeves of those records to Hastings record stores, Hastings Books and Music. We would take a whole sleeve or maybe 2 sleeves to Stillwater, where we were from, and then to Amarillo, where we were doing good, and just sell them up front to them. And that was gas money, to the next gig, to Lubbock, where we'd sell them another half a sleeve, and it, but now, shit, you don't make nothing. I mean, I still get a royalty check, but, I could maybe take my family to Olive Garden.
Hey,
we're not going on vacation. We're not going on vacation with royalty checks. I promise you that. We're working our asses off still.
Right. And that just shows you how things have changed. But, you were talking about it earlier, when you're doing something that you enjoy, and if you don't care about the money, you're going to be okay because you're going to do this the rest of your life with a smile on your face because you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be stressed going, I got to make X amount of dollars. You're going to do it because you love it. And that's a bonus, right? Getting paid
Yeah.
money, the bonus, right?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, this bus that we're riding on right now has had all kinds of mechanical issues. We're going to get fixed, so we don't have them for a while. But I mean, robbing Peter to pay Paul, as my wife says. You know, we probably haven't made half the money we're supposed to make, on this run just because of generator problems on the bus. But I can tell you what, the last 3 shows we played were really awesome, and we had a lot
Awesome.
of fun, and people were smiling.
Right. And that's what it's all about. And they don't
Yeah.
know stuff that you go through, but they see you rocking out and they appreciate that. And I know it means a lot to through all these years, you look out there and you see those crowds, you're probably thinking, man, that means a lot to have these people out there supporting you,
Yeah,
right?
it does. I don't know if you know the guy Todd Snyder, but I was about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, I don't know. I felt like there was a refocus in order, and I went and saw a few shows of his and Jason Isbell's, and talked to both of them, and just about refocusing, and I told Todd, what Todd said, what do you get a night? I was like, man, on average, we'll get 200 people no matter where we go. And there's give or takes, and he said, shit, man, there ain't nothing wrong with that, and that was reassuring to me that as long as we're still having fun and still putting gas in the tank and everybody's kids are fed, then we're doing all right.
That's right. Yeah. I think it's about the love for you in that room as opposed to, like you said, recording a bunch of crappy songs that don't mean anything to you. I guess when you're translating your feelings from a piece of paper and you're putting them on an album and these people are singing your words, that's got to be the best feeling ever to know that you touched people, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. When they sing words back to you that you and your band created, then it's pretty hard to complain about the day.
Well, in a lot of interviews you have like the dirt and things like that, but we're not going to talk about anybody in the band today, so it won't be in all these, right?
There's not much to say anyway, man.
But it's good though that you can get along and you can play the music that you want to play and you can enjoy it, and you seeing some pretty good sights out there too, right? I'm sure.
I want to flip this camera around and let you see it.
Oh wow, that's pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, Utah going into Colorado.
Oh
yeah,
wow.
It's pretty awesome. I like to try to go coast to coast every year. It doesn't always happen, but we do our best. We're summertime. I like to stay out of the South just because it's hot.
Don't I know it?
Yeah. How hot is it in Alabama?
It's in the 90s, but it's supposed to cool off tonight for a change. And it rained like for 2 seconds yesterday. But yeah, we're hitting about 90 something, 95 every day. It's hot, man.
It's been about 107 back home in South Texas. So we've been up in Idaho and Colorado and so Utah. So it got up to about 90 something yesterday, and it still wasn't as bad as it was back home. But yeah, we get to see some cool sights, and we'll in the next 6 months, we'll be going to the mountains of Colorado, and then in the same month going to Key West, so we get to do some cool stuff.
Right. And what about the future of the band? Have you besides this project, you re-recorded the album, which sounds great, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And what's your plans about more stuff and working on some things there with the band?
We built a studio back in 2020. We have a big shop that we've had for almost 20 years that we have been going to build a studio, a practice room or whatever. And we just finally did it because 2020, we had a lot of downtime, and we built that and started recording stuff. We have stuff we need to finish. When I say we, I mean me. Everybody's done with their parts. But once we get home, I got 2 kids, and then my wife has the school, so I feel like we're just constantly moving. But once the fall kicks in, it'll be a little slower. So we're going to get in there and finish some of the projects we started. We've been talking about putting together a cover record. BJ Barham from American Aquarium did a couple of cover records, and it made me think that we should do that because we cover a lot of stuff, and we can have a list full of our songs for the night, but you got to throw a cover in. I think covers are fun.
Sure.
And we got a couple of singles stuff we've already recorded. That's just, we're waiting for the Soul Gravy revisit to kind of wear out. I think we're going to do one more single after this one, and then we'll move into the new stuff. So it'll be probably February, March before the new stuff hits. And we're just going to keep doing it.
Awesome. And you were talking about your kids have a band. Do they play with you a lot on the road?
They do, yeah. It's a metal band called Waves in April. It started off more rock, now it's getting a singer, so it has that Evanescence vibe about it sometimes. There's a lot of places that they play with us, most places that they're very accepted. There's some of the more redneck elements that one, they walk out on stage, boys with long hair that's purple. We have to pick and choose. But when they do come out on the road with us, they definitely 4 or 5 songs that we save for them at the very end. And man, I couldn't be more proud of them. They're very determined. They write new music every time they practice, and they practice 2 or 3 times a week. And it just amazes me, and thinking back, we used to be like that too. When we were younger, we would go to practice and not only practice songs that we knew or songs that we needed to polish up on, we would walk out with new ideas, and that's what they're doing.
Awesome.
They got a long road ahead, but they're definitely ahead of it.
Well, they've got a great teacher to help them out, right?
I try the best I can.
So that's all you can do, man. Well, yeah. I appreciate you talking to me today, man. And like I said, I've been listening to, I always go back when I interview people, I go back through their stuff to kind of get re-involved, just kind of listen. Some great songs. And like I said, the remaking of that Soul Gravy, man, it's got a raw sound. And it reminds me of the old days of when you would have a band just jamming locally and you had fun and you just had a great time, and the songs sound like that. It just sounded, I don't know, they just have an energy to it, man. It sounds good.
Thank you. That's what we were going for. That's what I wanted the original Soul Gravy to sound like, but we had Suits record execs wanting to do certain things in a certain mix and all that. So we finally got to go back and do it the way we wanted to.
Well, you did it right. And
thanks, buddy. And thanks for being patient and letting me call you back.
I sure understand out there on the road, you don't really have a choice how the service is out there. So I understand that.
Right.
Well, I appreciate you, man. Like I said, I'll be looking out for all your musical ventures, and I love it all, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for talking to me today.
Yes, sir. And have a good day.
All right, man.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate you. And if you'd like to hear more about Cody Canada and his band, The Departed, head on over to thedepartedmusic.com for more information. And always remember to keep the music real.